The Her Story. The Her Story is a story of a woman in the congregation's life. We never give ourselves um, credit for what we have been through. And so the Her Story is giving this woman credit for what she has been through. Thanks, Sean. And the story is given to me. I take that story, I read everything that was given to me, and then I rewrite that story in the way that I hear Spirit speaking to me. For some people, they may think, well, you're telling everybody's business or you're telling somebody's business. I'm telling what they gave me. Because if they want us to know, how else are they going to let us know? Because most people wouldn't sit and listen to this, to all of this. And the stories are amazing. I want you to listen. Don't try to guess who it is. And if you know who it is, listen. Because what we do is we interrupt other people's stories because we don't want to feel the pain. We don't want to sit in their pain. So I want you to hear the whole story. And at the end, I'm going to tell you who it is. For some of you, you'll say, oh, I knew it was, but I didn't know all of that. So here we go. Her story. The title of this morning's story is Beautifully Broken. And her children shall rise up and call her blessed, not perfect, blessed. I was born in Hampton, Virginia at Dixie Hospital. I've never lived anywhere else. I had anything but a traditional childhood. My parents were anything but traditional. I had two sisters, one older half sister and a younger sister. I was really smart, and believe me, once my father was aware, he took full advantage of it. I didn't really know my mother. I mean, well, she was in my life, but she was in and out of the hospital more than she was at home. I was raised in a shot house. Yep, a real shot house. As a matter of fact, our kitchen table was an actual bar. We sold alcohol and dinners on the weekends. My younger sister and I would be locked in our bedrooms until the evening's activities were done. There was no way to get out of our room, even to go to the bathroom. So we learned to use the bathroom in other ways. We also had a rooming house on Queen Street. And as I got older, it was my job to go and collect the rent. I ran the numbers for my dad at 6 a.m. every morning before I went to school. My father was a carpenter by trade. He took me with him to do his jobs. It was nothing for me to take shingles up to the roof of a house on a ladder or hang sheetrock on walls. About this time, my mother died from cirrhosis of the liver. I was 7 years old. My sister and I were left to be raised by my father and my older half sister, who came to live with us from New Jersey. She was 4 years older than me. She was hateful. She was abusive to me and my sister. To her, we were ugly, and she made it a point to remind us that we didn't look like her, half white. You're nothing, and you will never be nothing because you're ugly. Those were her words, not mine. My half sister would enact her own brand of justice when I gave the wrong answer to a multiplication problem. She would wet a strap in hot water and beat me until I got the answer right. I went to school with the welts from the beating oozing blood through my clothes. The abuse from my half sister was brutal. I was the protector, so I had to protect my younger sister. At first, I only had to protect her from our half sister, but then I had to protect her and myself from my father. His abuse was different, ungodly. Back then, child abuse was not recognized like it is now, so my cries to teachers and neighbors went unacknowledged. When I was about 10 or 11 years old, my half sister called the police and reported me as a runaway after a fight. What's the use? At this point, I gave up. I tried to commit suicide by drinking a bottle of turpentine. It didn't work. I was just sick for 4 days. But it taught me a great lesson. God doesn't want me to die. My belief in God gave me strength. I prayed, and 2 weeks later, my half sister left and went back to New Jersey. I knew about God because, in spite of everything else that I was raised in, I was raised in church. Bethel AME on Lincoln Street. I sang on the angel choir, the junior choir, and the gospel choir. By now, I'm in the 10th grade. I start running with the wrong crowd and I start drinking. In the 11th grade, my friends and I decided to drop out of school. My father withdrew me from school, but little did I know he had a plan of his own. At 6 in the morning, my father stomps his foot and wakes me up. If you want to drop out of school, he said, you're going to go to work. I started working. I worked 2 jobs, but I knew I couldn't last like this. So the next year, I returned to school. I left that crowd alone and became a leader and not a follower. And with the help of the teachers and the guidance officers, I was able to graduate in 1986. By the time I was 21 years old, my father had moved back to New Jersey and was in a nursing home. He had the nursing staff call me. He wanted to see me. For what? When I saw my father, he apologized for all that he had done to me. He was sorry? Oh well, I accepted his apology immediately, right then and there. He died the next day. After all those years, I had made peace with my father, but I had not made peace with myself. I was still drinking. Married now, I had a great job at the Helmet Corporation. I had 2 beautiful boys and had purchased my first new home. I was a certified welding instructor. I was good. Life was good until it wasn't. After about 5 years, still drinking, I was introduced to cocaine. Things were coming unraveled. My job placed me in rehab and I was able to get clean. I stayed clean for about 2 years before relapsing. This time, I lost my job. I had been on my job for 7 years. I wasn't coping. I couldn't cope. I didn't have the coping skills that I needed. I know now that sometimes the traumas deep on the inside can show up and be seen on the outside. All the trauma from all those years had made their way to the surface of my life. It had been so much. The thoughts and everything that happened, I was just a little girl. All of that had just been too much. My husband and sister in law took my boys. I thank God because the drug really had me. But in those moments of clarity, and I did have moments of clarity, I was able to do what was right, giving guardianship of my oldest son to his aunt and having shared custody with my husband. When I could see my boys respectfully, I did. But the guilt and the shame were sometimes unbearable. How do you love your children enough to walk away and leave them crying for you? I had to. They deserved better. And although I was consumed by the drugs, I wouldn't be consumed and selfish toward my boys. God knows I was trying to keep my head and thoughts above water. My in laws knew it too. They were always there for me and my sons, and for that I am still so very grateful. In all, I went to 4 different rehabilitation centers. Another moment of clarity came. I got a job at Burger King. I worked there for 10 years, but I was still using. I managed to get clean during that time and stayed clean for 3 years. In 1999, on Mother's Day, I joined West End and I became an usher. I got involved with my boys. I had to make it count this time. I became a team mom on my youngest son's football team, And when he played football at Heritage, I was on the booster club. With the guidance and the love of their father and his family, my oldest son graduated from Morehouse College, and my youngest son graduated from Old Dominion University. I was one proud mama. God had been with me all the time, and God had been with them. In 2014, I was diagnosed with Chiari malformation, a brain disease. I had to have brain surgery. I wasn't prepared for this. I couldn't cope. The thoughts returned. Depression set in. In 2018, I started using alcohol again, but this time, y'all, it was really bad. I was in and out of the hospital for my liver. No, 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 not this time. Not this time. I'm not going to do this again. And in another moment of clarity, I said, God, I know you're real. I have but one prayer. Take the taste of alcohol out of my mouth. Heal my body, and I will serve you. One day, the taste was gone. And over time, my liver healed 100%. My kidneys healed 100%. God had healed my body. I kept my promise to serve God. Back to the usher board that I loved. When I look back at my life's experiences, I no longer dwell on the thoughts that don't serve me. I dwell on the thoughts that empower me. I am intentional about my life, every detail of my life. I keep my schedule with me, and I only do what God has directed for me to do in a day. Some may think it doesn't take all of that. Okay. But for me, it does. And I have to honor myself. I married again in 2019, but we made the decision to separate. And I know now that that's all right because we remain the best of friends. I made the decision that honored me. Today, I live with my son. I am enjoying my beautiful grandchildren and the new relationships that I have with my sons and my whole family. I continue to serve at the church, and I love the people at the church. When asked to lead the ushers, I was ecstatic. Of course, I will, and I will do it the best that I can. I have been clean for 2 years and 6 months. While attending my AA and NA meetings, I was led to ask Bishop about starting a meeting at West End. He had attended my meetings and supported me. He was at both of my graduations, so I felt that he understood the mission. To my surprise, without hesitation, he said yes. We meet on Mondays, and it didn't take long to grow. We now have ten members and are able to pay a small amount of rent to the church. Wow. I am so thankful and so grateful for my life. I thank Bishop and Leading Lady for teaching me that I am somebody and that I am one with God. But I would also like to thank all of you for loving me right where I was. I keep God in my thoughts these days, knowing that right where I am, God is. I am Sister Cheryl Michelle Cofield.